Okay, well, welcome everybody to the New Mexico College Access Council's webinar about the ROTC program. So today we have two guests from the University of New Mexico that are joining us to share with you about how to join ROTC programs at the collegiate level and what that means. So I'll go ahead and I will turn the program over to you. Just so you guys know that are in the rooms, just some rules of engagement. You're welcome to have your cameras on while you're with us today, or if you don't want to turn them on, that's okay too. I'll be moderating the chat throughout the program, so any questions that come up, please put them in there so that I can answer, or I can send those over to them so that they can answer those for you. And if you need any assistance after the program, my name's Jackie Kennedy, and I'm one of the volunteers for NMCAC who's putting on the webinars today. So I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. And just so if any of you are interested in New Mexico State, Jackie is an admissions counselor for New Mexico State. And then one more correction. Milena, my co-presenter, is an area recruiter. She's not with me at UNM, but that's okay. So hi, everybody. My name is Erik Sevigny, and I am the enrollment officer for the University of New Mexico Army ROTC program. And my co-presenter, Milena, and I are going to talk to you about the Reserve Officer Training Corps. And so as we get started, I got to make sure, Milena, are we looking at the right slide? I just got to double check my technology. Okay. And so here's the deal. You're probably wondering why the civilian guy is talking to you about Army ROTC. Well, first of all, I'm the recruiter for the program at UNM, but I served 24 years in the Army. I went to the University of New Hampshire, and I went through the ROTC program there. After I commissioned as an officer, I went into the Army as an infantry officer, and I served in numerous infantry positions leading up to coming here to the University of New Mexico and then running the ROTC program here. And I guess I didn't get it right, so when I retired, they made me come back, and now I'm an Army civilian. But my job is to recruit students, specifically high school students, for the Army ROTC program. Now, I specifically am located at the University of New Mexico, but if any of you are interested in another college or university and you want help and you're from my area, or even if you're not from my area, by all means, feel free to give me a call. I've been doing this a while, so I have quite a bit of experience, and I'm willing to help any of you out, go and do what you want. And if it's serving in the Navy, I'll help you do that too. Although I'll probably try to get you to join the Army. And then now I'm going to let Milena introduce herself as well.
Thank you. So I am Second Lieutenant Melina Guzman, and I went to Worcester Polytechnic Institute for my degree. I was in Air Force ROTC, and now I am working as an admissions advisor for Air Force ROTC. So my job is all about just talking about ROTC, what it is, and the benefits, so that you can consider this in your future plans as well. So I'm currently based in Las Cruces, but I am in charge of, or rather, I am responsible for pretty much the entire New Mexico area and also West Texas. So if you're interested in Air Force ROTC at all, definitely come to me, ask questions. So at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, or WPI, like I said, I was in Air Force ROTC, and they actually gave me a scholarship that let me actually afford college, which was great. And so while I was at WPI, I participated in different clubs. I had a part-time job. I played rugby, and specifically in ROTC, I was on the drill team and was in charge of training people as well. So that's kind of me. Graduated with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and also as a pilot select. So this is a year-long assignment for me. Once I'm done with this, I will be going to pilot training over in Texas.
All right, thank you. So moving on, we're going to talk about the difference between officer and enlisted. So specifically today, we're going to focus on commissioning as an officer. And all of the ROTC programs, that's their objective, is to commission officers for the military. So let's move on and talk about exactly what is an officer. Now, some of you may have friends or even yourselves may have thought about enlisting in the military. When we talk officer and enlisted, there's a difference, and we'll show you a picture here in a minute that kind of depicts it a little bit better. But the definition according to the law is that a commissioned officer is someone who holds a position of authority, and they get their authority from the President of the United States. So both Milena and I have a certificate that's signed by the President that says we have authority as commissioned officers. But to make it a little more understandable, we have a picture. So our rank structure in the military is not like anybody else's rank structure. It's not like Walmart or even the police department. You can't say, oh, this is just how the military works. It's different. So for those of you that have friends that joined the military, say right out of high school, they started off as junior enlisted service members. And they worked their way up the ranks, and some of them may become what we call non-commissioned officers or sergeants, and they become part of the leadership team. When you're talking about that, the leadership team includes the non-commissioned officers and the officers. But what we're really going to talk about is that top yellow triangle, which is where the officers come in. So I like to say it's the executive team for the military, and we're going to talk specifically about the bottom part of that triangle and how you get into that triangle as an officer. So moving on, the question is, how do you become an officer? So when you're thinking about becoming an officer, there are basically three main ways to become an officer. You can go through ROTC, you can go to one of the service academies, or you can go to officer candidate school or officer training school for the Air Force. So ROTCs, there are three. There's Army, Air Force, and Navy. For any of you that are interested in becoming a Marine Corps officer, Naval ROTC is who produces officers for the Marines. So if that's your case, you look at a Naval ROTC program, and they should be able to help you out with the Marine Corps option. But the Army is the largest. We have 275 host programs with over 1,000 affiliates or partnerships around the country. There are 145 Air Force detachments with over 1,000 crosstown agreements. And the Navy is the smallest with 63 programs at 77 universities. So that just means that a Navy program in a city like, say, Boston might have 2 colleges that answer to 1 program. And then the service academies, you have West Point, you have the Air Force Academy, and then you have the Naval Academy. What I like to tell people is my rank didn't look any different than somebody that went through one of the academies. Our pay is the same, our rank structure is the same. It's just a different method to get to the same end state as a commissioned officer. However, if some of you are interested in the academies, we can help you get in touch with one of the recruiting officers for the academies. But having done this a minute, I would tell you to also do your ROTC scholarships and do them all, because it's always good to have options, but it's really bad if you don't have any options. So the worst thing that any of these folks can tell you is no. The best thing is you get offers from all of them, and then you have to decide. So that's how you become an officer. And then I think, Milena, why don't you tell us what ROTC is all about?
So, like he said, ROTC is the largest commissioning source that we have for.
Hey, Milena.
Sorry?
Your audio, is everybody hearing her audio kind of weird? Or just me? Yeah, shake, okay. Yeah, your audio for some reason is coming through bad right now. Is it possible we can have you check it or log out and log back in real quick?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, in the meantime, I'll cover this side and you can pick back up when we get to the next one. Okay. All right, so ROTC is a combination of your education and your leadership training at the same time. So you're going to complete a degree and you're going to complete ROTC along a parallel path. And then when you're done, you will get your commission and you will get your diploma at the same time. So that's what ROTC is. And Milena wants to focus on the fact that you're a traditional college student while you're going through and getting your commission. And she's back. Are you better?
Do I sound better?
Oh, much, much better. Thank you. So
Okay.
I just told them that you like to emphasize that your ROTC is traditional college experience, still earning your commission.
Yes. So yeah, essentially you're just a normal college student. You're getting your degree, you're joining different clubs, whatever it is, and you have that additional training that you are doing for ROTC. So when you graduate and you get your bachelor's, you're commissioning at the same time and starting your career. So it's really cool.
All right, so some of you may have junior ROTC at your high schools, or you know people that have been in junior ROTC. So a lot of times we get the question, is there a difference? Do I have to do junior ROTC in order to go into the ROTC at the college level? The answer to that last question is no. There is no requirement for JROTC to go to one of our programs. So what's the difference? The junior ROTC program at the high school level is a citizenship program. Now, some may belong to it, and a number of our students did go through JROTC, but again, not a requirement. There is no service obligation or commitment at JROTC at the high school level. ROTC at the college level is designed to make you a military officer, and you are going to serve in the armed forces after you graduate and commission. So just to alleviate any confusion, and having done this a minute, that often comes up. So I just wanted to answer that for you up front. And then I often tell people we share the same last name, but we're not really related. So that should take care of that. And then let's talk about what we have to offer. So when you're talking in general between all of the ROTC programs, whether it's Army, Air Force, or Navy, we're all basically the same in what we have to offer, with variances on opportunities for graduation or how our scholarships and our monetary incentives work. However, in general, we graduate our students faster and more often. So when you think about it, before I joined ROTC in college, I was kind of a knucklehead. I got into ROTC and my academics turned around, and I started, because I had an objective, I had a goal. And that's what causes us to graduate faster and more often. You're going to get extensive leadership training. That's the whole goal of ROTC, is to train leaders. And then you have this peer group. So if any of you are on a team, whether it's a sports team or a club or anything like that, it's basically transferring that to the college level. I played sports in high school, but didn't do that in college. And then when I got to ROTC in college, that became basically my team. We do a lot of extracurricular activities. We keep our students involved in school and in the community. And as Milena said, we're students first, but there's a lot of opportunities to be involved through your ROTC program. And then there's financial support through scholarships and monthly stipend. When you graduate and commission, you're going to get skills training. So I was an infantry officer, then I was going to be a pilot. And then the last part is, we are pretty much the only program on campus that can guarantee you a job. If you successfully complete our program and you earn your degree, you're going to have a job after graduation. Now, one of the unique differences for the Army over the other two services is we have a part-time option. So let's say, for example, Jackie wants to go be a police officer in Albuquerque after she graduates. She can go into the Army Reserve or the Army National Guard. serve as a part-time soldier and pursue a full-time career. Or she could go on active duty and be a full-time service member like Milena and like I did when I was in the Army. Okay. So moving on, let's talk about, Milena, why don't you tell us what Cadet Life's all about?
So what it looks like to be a cadet in college. So this is all the stuff that is ROTC specific. So the real core of what ROTC is and what it's all about are really those first 3 bullets. And so those are the mandatory things as well. So the first is academic classes, and that is 1 to 3 hours a week. And as a freshman, it's just 1 hour a week. And in that class, it's a classroom environment where you're learning about really the basics of the military, the history of your respective branch, you know, what a uniform is, how to wear it, what does it mean, and so forth. And then as you progress through the program, the topics of discussion get more and more complex. And so they'll start talking about different leadership strategies, what worked in one situation versus another, or what didn't. And you discuss these through the lens of historical events and also current events as well. And so in that classroom, you're learning a lot about leadership strategies, things like that. And that then gets applied in what's called leadership laboratory. And so that is a weekly block of time that ranges from 2 to 4 hours, where the bulk of that is just focused on training and evaluating you on leadership skills, followership, teamwork, and critical thinking skills as well. And so what the training actually looks like will vary week to week, but it's all completely focused on that. And that's really the meat of what your leadership training through ROTC will be. And a big part of leadership laboratory is preparing cadets for what's called for the Air Force field training and for the Army advanced camp. And so that's essentially during the summer, it's an evaluation period that's a stressful environment, and it's a certain amount of time where a cadet is just thrown into it and they're evaluated on their leadership and everything that you were trained on. And so the whole purpose of that is to determine if you're fit to be not only a leader in the ROTC program, but also fit to be commissioning as an officer and a leader in the military as well. And so the next thing is physical fitness training. So those are typically just group workouts 2 to 3 times a week. And a big part of that is preparing you for a physical fitness assessment. So that's required, and what that actually looks like, what is required, is different depending on which program you're in, but it's a physical fitness assessment that you have to pass as a cadet. And so that's really the core of what the program is. But what really makes the program as rich and rewarding as it is, you know, everything that's below that as well. And so these are optional but extra opportunities that you can take advantage of specifically through ROTC. And so we'll get into extracurricular activities on the next slide a little bit, but there's a ton of things that you can do that you really can't do outside of ROTC. And there are extra clubs and honor societies that you can be a part of. So for example, like I said, I was on the drill team, and so I was doing color guards, I was competing, things like that, specifically for my drill team. And then there's also additional schooling and training that you can do typically in the summer, and those are super cool because they open you up to new opportunities, new experiences, and in some cases, depending on what the training is, you can even get certified for certain things. So for example, there's a free fall program at the Air Force Academy, and if you do that, you get your wings at the end and you're certified to jump out of planes. So here is a bunch of pictures, and you can see that there's a ton of opportunities for really cool experiences and camaraderie, where you can just experience a bunch of different kind of stuff. And this is all stuff that you can do specifically through ROTC. This doesn't even include all of the other stuff that you can experience just as a normal college student, which you definitely have the time to do, and it's encouraged as well. So one thing that I really want to kind of focus on is what's called Project Global Officer, or Project Go. And so that is a foreign language learning program where essentially the DoD pays for you to either go to a different country or stay in the US too and learn a foreign language. And so you can see in that middle photo of the camels in the desert, that was taken by one of my friends who went to Morocco to study Arabic for a summer, and that was completely free for her. And I also did Project Go. I did a domestic program. So I was at Indiana University studying Mandarin Chinese. And I really enjoyed that program, definitely one of the best summers of my life. And that is just one of the many opportunities that you can take advantage of that are only available to ROTC cadets.
Yeah, so I want to follow up on a couple things that she said and highlight some pictures on the photo. In the lower right-hand corner, that's a group of our cadets, and any of you that are on that are from Albuquerque, that's part of the Twinkle Light Parade. They entered their own, for lack of a better term, float in the parade, and they competed, and they had a great time. The other at the bottom is the Army-Navy football game. So we have Naval ROTC here at UNM. So every year around the same time the academies compete, they get together for a flag football game. Just so you know, Army is victorious 13 of the last 14 years, just saying. And then there's just a myriad of other opportunities. The big flag that's on the pit floor is that actually is our Air Force ROTC and our Army ROTC that are doing a joint color guard, and lots of opportunities to get involved. Moving on, who are we looking for? When you ask yourself, you know, who are the ROTC's programs looking for, we use a concept called the whole person concept. In fact, all of the commissioning sources, whether it's the academies or whether it's the ROTC programs, they're looking for the whole person concept. And for that matter, Jackie, who's an admissions counselor for NMSU, she's going to talk about, you know, when has you applying for NMSU, she's going to talk about the whole person concept. So I'm a simple guy, so I like to use the acronym SAL, Scholar, Athlete, Leader. So when you're thinking about your whole person concept, anything you can put into these categories is going to make you more competitive. So scholar, that means strength of schedule, good grades, and test scores, SAT or ACT. Athlete, let's face it, their physical component and rigors of being an Army officer or a military officer. And so we want students that can handle those physical challenges. That might mean being involved in a sports team or individual athletic competitions or individual sports, but it's being able to handle the physical part of being in the military. And finally, leader. We're looking for those students that have the desire to lead and have a spark of leadership that's been demonstrated through being a part of student council, a captain of a team, and we're going to hone and refine those leadership skills to make you the best leader you can be for whichever service component you're going to go into. So remember that, SAL, Scholar, Athlete, Leader. So let's talk, Milena, why don't you talk about the Air Force Scholarship, please?
Yep, so for the Air Force High School Scholarship Program, the application window for that is open right now, but I'm gonna just go over the types that you can be awarded. So there's type 1, and that is full tuition and fees at any public or private university that has an ROTC program. And so this is the least number that we actually award, since it offers the most, about 5%. And type 2 is up to $18,000 a year towards tuition and fees, also at any public or private university. And that's about 20% of the awards or of the scholarships that we award. And then the last type is type 7. And so this is full tuition and fees at any public university that you qualify for in-state tuition at. So that doesn't necessarily mean a public university in your state. If there's another college that isn't in your state but will give you in-state rate, then this scholarship can still be applied towards that. And this is the majority of the scholarships that we do award, about 75%. And so just a note for all of these scholarships, whether it's Air Force, Army, or Navy, all of them are merit-based, and the most important part of the application is the whole person concept. And we'll get into that a little bit more too. But for also any of these scholarships, you don't just get the tuition and fees paid towards. There's also additional allowances for books and fees. And the actual number will vary depending on the service. And then additionally, this one was awesome for me. All of these scholarships will also offer a monthly stipend. And so the exact number will also depend on what service you're going to or where you are in the program, but it's a minimum of $300. So that was really cool for me to get as well when I had my scholarship.
Okay, so the Army, we don't have quite the same kind of breakdown. We have through the National Scholarship application process, which is open, which is currently open. You can apply for the National Scholarship and you can be awarded either what we call a 3-year advanced designee scholarship or a 4-year scholarship. So the 3-year advanced designee scholarship starts in your sophomore year. So you do a validation year, your freshman year, and it starts and pays the remainder of your college after that validation year. The 4-year scholarship, if you earn that starts in your freshman year, and it can cover up to 10 semesters if your degree plan requires it. So if you're in a hard science major, say engineering, and you require 10 semesters, it can potentially cover up to those 10 semesters. We offer full tuition and fees. So if you take that option in your scholarship and you go to, let's say, Embry-Riddle, and it's $45,000 a year, our scholarship's going to cover that. Ours is based on the time and not necessarily the amount. And then finally, for those of you that are planning on staying in New Mexico and you get the lottery scholarship and you have the Army scholarship, or you're going to another college and you've earned a merit scholarship for tuition, the Army scholarship has a room and board option. So students here at UNM, they use their lottery scholarship to cover tuition, and they use their Army scholarship to cover room and board. So that's really helpful for them because at the end of the day, they're almost on a full ride and don't necessarily have college bills afterwards.
So for the application window for the Air Force, like I said, it's open now. It opened 1st of June, and the deadline is the 14th of January, 2021. So it is coming up. To apply, it's online at afrotc.com. And once you get there, it'll tell you everything you need to know about how to apply and what you need to submit. There are a number of required documents. It will outline all of that. There's the biggest part of the application of what is considered is the scholarship interview. So that is really important, and that's there to let them see kind of the whole person concept, like we mentioned earlier, how that's really important. There are some eligibility requirements for the scholarship program. The main one that I'll just go over now is the SAT and ACT. We do still require a test score, but if anything changes, that will be posted on afrotc.com and you'll be able to see it there. So our minimum scores for eligibility for the SAT are 1240, and for the ACT, is 26. So there are additional eligibility requirements. I can go over those if you have questions about it, but that is what you need to know initially for the application for the Air Force.
So the Army window is also open. It opened in June and it closes on February 4th. You can see the link there. Go to goarmy.com, ROTC, and then the high school students. Now, our minimum requirements are a 2.5 high school GPA and 19 on the ACT or 1,000 on the SAT. I'm going to tell you those aren't competitive. They're the minimum requirements, but they're not going to be competitive. So in order to be competitive for the Army scholarship, these are my personal recommendations. A GPA above a 3.0, an ACT somewhere around 25, and then the SAL criteria. Now, I will tell you that let's say you get a 20 on the ACT and you play every sport at your school and you're the president of your high school and et cetera, we have a balancing scale. So if your GPA is low but your test score is high and you have a lot of activities, that's going to make you competitive. If your test scores and GPA are really high but you have fewer activities, just think about it as a balancing act. What I tell people is apply. The worst thing that they can tell you is no. The best thing they can tell you is yes. So Navy unfortunately couldn't join us today, but we did do a little research and got some information about Navy. So if any of you are interested in Navy, their window is open right now and goes through 31 December. They also do the Marine Corps option. My recommendation is to go to their website and look up how the Marine Corps option works. But as both the Air Force and the Army, we talked about what it pays for. You can see there that they have the full tuition at one of the colleges or universities. They have the stipend for books, the same as Air Force and Army does. And then they also have a monthly stipend that Milena talked about. The Army stipend is a little different. We're $420 a month for every month that you're in school, and it doesn't change. So the key components are complete the application, regardless of which service component you're going into or you're interested in. I recommend completing them all. Get your test scores done. Currently, we all still require SAT or ACT, and as Milena mentioned, that may change, but right now it's a requirement. And then work on your fitness and take your physical fitness assessment and schedule your interview. Those are the big parts. And I talked about rehearsing your interview earlier, or did I? Maybe I didn't. No, that was during when Milena and I were talking. Don't let this be the first time you go into an interview when you interview for your scholarship. Find somebody that you trust and practice your interview skills. And it's not necessarily gaming for the interview. It's just comfortable talking to somebody, and specifically comfortable talking to somebody about yourself. This is not a time to be humble. It's time to take credit for the things that you have done during your high school career. Okay? So moving on, let's talk about the future. All right, so a lot of times we get asked, what is the service obligation after commissioning? Well, no matter how you join the military, you have a minimum of an 8-year service obligation. Now, some of you may say, well, I have friends that joined the military and they enlisted for 3 years. But they also have 5 more years of service commitment that it doesn't normally get about. That's that big red box over there called the Individual Ready Reserve. So regardless of how you serve the military, you have an 8-year service obligation. The key is how you serve that 8 years out. So I did all 8 of mine on active duty. I have students that did 4 years on active duty and then 4 years in the Individual Ready Reserve. They're walking around Albuquerque right now. They've got beards. They are pursuing civilian careers, and you wouldn't know that they were still serving the military obligation. The IRR is like a call list. So if we have a national emergency, the military can reach out to folks that they have already trained and in more time increase our service numbers so that we deal with the emergency. Now, Milena mentioned that she's going to be a pilot. There are also some career field dependent service obligations that get added on. So if the military pays for your med school, or they pay you to be a fighter pilot or a pilot in the Air Force, your service obligation may increase after that. So those can also be there as well. Finally, I told you the Army has the unique opportunity to go into the reserve component at commissioning. So we also have a reserve component service obligation, still 8 years, but that's variant depending on whether you're scholarship or non-scholarship. So moving on. What do you do in the military, Milena?
So what you actually do, let's say, so first on the Air Force and now the Space Force side. So you will, once you graduate and commission, you will go into a specific career field. And what you do, and there's kind of different categories. So as you can see in the top bit, these are some careers that are considered more operational. And so perhaps the most well-known one with the Air Force is pilot, but there's more. So there's combat system officer, air battle manager, RPA pilot, cyberspace officer, all of those. And so the majority of those are what are called rated career fields. And so those are the ones that are going to have that longer service commitment, but not all of them are. And so just a note with the Space Operations Officer, that is now exclusively a Space Force career. So if you're interested in doing space operations, then you would be commissioning directly into the Space Force actually. And if you're still interested in going into the Space Force but don't want to do space operations, for example, there are also other careers that are becoming more important and have a bigger role in the Space Force. Right now, the biggest career fields for that are intelligence and especially cyber. So there's that opportunity as well. And so we also have career fields that are more on the support side. And so those can range from maintenance to intelligence, engineering, health services, medical, logistics, security forces, public affairs. There's a ton. And so this is just a sampling of what you could do as a career in the Air Force and or Space Force. And so moving on over to the Army, when you commission into the Army, for the most part, you will be going into one of those first 17 branches. Unless you are interested in nursing and go on that track, then you'll do the 18th one of the nursing. Yeah, but for the most part, it's those, you'll be commissioning into those branches. And you know, I don't know too much about this, but I heard from a certain retired lieutenant colonel that infantry is #1, hence being first on the list, getting the thumbs up. But so that's the Army branches, and then Air Force and Space Force specialties.
Okay, so let's talk about the opportunities. So when you think about service, there are some things that you may not think about and that may or may not matter to you currently as a high school student. But if any of you are sitting there with your parents, I can tell you that a couple of these are going to be very important to you in the future. You know, serving the military was a great opportunity, and I do feel appreciation from lots of folks. There is a competitive salary. You may hear horror stories that, oh, the military, there's service members on food stamps and all that. I will tell you that I didn't run across that but a few times, and as an Army officer, the pay is pretty good. So that is a second lieutenant, and she is coming out of college with no experience, and she's going to be making probably over $50,000 a year with her basic pay and then her housing allowance. So that's a pretty good salary for somebody starting out graduation. Now, the next part I'm going to tell you is not to brag, but it's just to show you that it is a competitive process. When I retired as a lieutenant colonel with 24 years, and my pay was about $120,000 a year. So I'll tell you that again, not to brag, but my service, I was able to provide for my family, and my 3 daughters were just fine. I don't know where all that money went, except for the shoes and the toys that cluttered our house over the years. But yeah, the pay is good. The other thing is that it is truly exceptional is the 100% medical and dental coverage. Again, doesn't mean a lot to you as a high school student, but ask your parents how much they're paying in medical and dental, and they'll tell you that 100% coverage is really good. And the one I miss the most is probably the 30 days a year of leave. In high school, you get 110 days off for summer, so 30 days, you're like, that isn't anything. When you start adulting, 30 days a year is a big deal. The other thing I want to cover is when you are in the military, it's a merit-based promotion system. Means if you do well, you get promoted. It's not who you know, it's not who your family is, it's not how much money you make, it's performance-based. Every time you get promoted, you get more responsibility. Every time you get more responsibility, you get more education. So the Army paid for my master's degree and a whole lot of diplomas that are hanging on my wall from the myriad of training and education opportunities that I went through in the Army. So with that said, I will tell you that we believe that ROTC is a great way to earn your commission and still have the traditional college experience. So we are going to now turn it over for questions that anybody may have. And I'm going to ask Miss Jackie if there's a specific format that she would like us to follow, or if we're just going to open it up for questions.
So for any of y'all that have questions, you're welcome to type them if you're more comfortable doing that. But since it's a smaller group, you can also unmute yourself and ask the question to the group aloud.
Hi, so I wasn't really able to be in the meeting the whole time, and I see that you're recording it, so is there a way I could watch the recording?
Absolutely. So I will post in the chat the link to the New Mexico College Access Council website. So following the event, you all will be able to access all the presentations that we've done this week. So not only have we had this one, but we also did a financial aid session, and we did a session about family engagement in the college process. So I'll put the link in the chat for all of you to go back and reference this after the event concludes today.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? So out of curiosity, who is thinking about Army? You can hit the little raise your hand button. None of you? That makes me very sad. I might have to go home and cry. All right, how about Air Force?
I'm thinking about Air Force.
Okay. And how about Navy or Marines? Okay. All right. So again, I highly recommend that you apply for all of them. And then, you know, if Marine Corps, let's say Marine Corps, Justin, is your #1 choice, use Army and Air Force to be your guinea pigs to get through the application process, and then go from there. And then if you need help, Milena's here. Milena's in the state for a year before she goes, so she can help you with Air Force. And I will help anybody with Army, regardless of where you want to go. And we can post our contact information as well. So it looks like Lindsay has a question. Yes, so I was a biology major in college, and what I did is, and if you were able to see when we were earlier on, your academic plan runs parallel with your ROTC. So the students that I have right now that are in biology, yes, their ROTC classes cover the majority of their electives. So, and then we actually, for UNM Army ROTC, we offer a minor in military science. So that covers the requirement for the minor for biology in particular. And I don't know, Milena, did WPI do anything similar to that?
So for biology, there wasn't anything that ROTC specifically waived for biology, but not off the top of my head, no.
But did WPI offer a minor in military science or in air?
Oh, sorry. WPI did not offer a minor for military science, but all the classes were available for anybody to take if they were interested in it. So
yeah, so since we're what we consider an interdisciplinary programs, the ROTC departments are, we tend to be as flexible as possible to accommodate those of you, your academics, because as we mentioned a couple of times, your students first. So we can't do anything with you toward commissioning and degree. Now, the other thing I will tell you that Army does not have any degree requirements. So you don't have to be in a certain degree for the scholarship or to go for your commission. Now, Navy does have specific quotas for engineering, and they will, if they give you an engineering scholarship, changing your major is very, very difficult. And I know that because some of their students have joined our program because they needed to change their majors. So look into that for each of the specific branches so you make sure that you understand parameters you're joining for. The only one that we have a restriction on is nursing. If you get awarded a nursing scholarship out of school and you want to change your major, you're going to have a suspension of scholarship for a semester. Everything else is, you come in, and in general, we look at having you go into that major. But for Army, if you need to change for whatever reason, to twice during your college time.
And I'll just quickly add on to that as well. For the Air Force scholarship, there is a preference for technical degrees. But if you are awarded a technical scholarship, then you can change your major as long as it's still considered a tech major. And then there's also there's non-tech and then also foreign language. So switching from tech to non-tech or the other way or to a language, that's a little more complicated. But if it's a major that's within that designation, then it's very easy. I actually did that too.
All right, so Lindsay asked another good question. She asked do you apply for the college to get your ROTC program? And I'll speak specifically to Army. So when you apply for the Army scholarship, you can select up to 7 colleges or universities that have an ROTC program. So when you look on your application, there'll be a list of 275 host programs with 1,000 affiliates. Go in and find those 7 colleges or universities you want and put them on your application. Now, yes, you do have to apply to those colleges and universities so that you can get accepted to those college or to that college or that university. The other requirement we have is when you apply, you have to put down an in-state school. So I'm assuming the majority of everybody on here is a New Mexico resident. So you'll have to pick UNM or NMSU as one of your choices. It doesn't mean you have to go there. It just means you have to pick an in-state school as one of your choices.
And for the Air Force, it's really, you apply to the college first and you just make sure that that college has an ROTC program for Air Force. And so in terms of actually being in the program, whether or not if you don't have a scholarship, you don't need a scholarship to be in the program. But really the only requirement is that to join is that you are enrolled at a college that has the program. And so that's all you need to join. If you're interested in ROTC, definitely look at those colleges first and make sure the ones that you're interested in actually have the programs there. For the Air Force specifically, the way to check is going to afrotc.com and there's a college locator on the website, and you can check there. For the scholarship application, we have a similar thing where you'll list colleges that you're interested in applying to. You're not required to actually go if you got accepted to any of those. It's just there to show interest, and then you may or may not get an email from the cadre from those debts. But in order to join, you just need to be enrolled at a college with the program. And then I'm also going to throw my email in the chat. So if you are interested in getting more information specifically about Air Force ROTC, then make sure to email me.
Yeah, so that brings up two other really good points. If you apply for the scholarship and you get it and you decide you don't want it, you're not obligated. So you can walk away. So again, my recommendation is to apply and get it, and then you can decide later if it's something you don't want. But once you miss the deadline, you can't apply for the nationals anymore. Now, with that said, let's say you apply and for whatever reason this year is really competitive and you didn't get awarded a scholarship. All of the services also have in-college scholarship options. So you show up on campus, you walk up to me and you say, hey, I didn't get a scholarship, but I still want to join your program. You can still join and compete for a scholarship on campus. And so lots of opportunities, lots of different choices. Just go out there and do it.
Another note about the scholarships. I don't know if this applies to Army, you'll have to let me know. But at least for the Air Force high school scholarships, if you apply and you're awarded a scholarship and you accept it, you can go and join the program. And let's say you got that type 1 that pays full tuition and fees. If during your freshman year you decide that you don't really like ROTC or you don't want to join the Air Force, as long as you say that before the first day of your sophomore year, there are no consequences. So you can quit ROTC and give up that scholarship, but you won't have to pay back anything that was paid towards your tuition for your freshman year, and there's no service commitment. So that's a really important thing to note, that even if you do get that scholarship for your freshman year, there's still no commitment until the start of your sophomore year.
Perfect. Are there any more questions? I think we're almost out of time. All right. So again, Milena and I are around. I'm not going anywhere. I think that they're probably this cubicle that I'm in is probably where I'm going to be buried. So if you need any help on this, just give me a call. Let me know. I post my information in the chat. And Milena's around for a year before she goes to be a pilot. And if you want to go to NMSU, talk to Jackie. She's awesome.